it was Donald Trump.
Absolutely, completely agree. And I think the big loser last night was Joe Biden. Once again, I think it was incredibly telling that all of the fire that was taken on stage was by Elizabeth Warren and not Joe Biden, indicating that even Democrats on that stage know that Biden is finished and that Warren is the new frontrunner. And I think that's even more good news for President Trump, not just the fact that the Democrats failed in the debate last night, but that Elizabeth Warren is their frontrunner, that she is the new face of the Democrat Party. That is a great contrast for this president, and I think it sets him up very nicely for re-election in November.
Sarah, can you imagine having you had somebody you worked for who never backed away from an interview. He does it twice a day now, just talking to the press. Joe Biden doesn't sit down for one-on-ones and doesn't go to any spin rooms after debates. He's no longer the prohibitive favorite. He is no longer leading in most polls. What do you really think is going on behind the scenes?
Well, I think it's a recognition of the failures of him as vice president for 8 years. I think it is showing that they didn't get anything done, the things they did, the American people don't want. And I think it shows the level of corruption that people think that the Biden family is actually engaged in. I thought that the questioning last night was weak and pathetic. Sadly, it is not surprising that CNN accused President Trump in their questions, yet gave Biden a complete free pass. They gave him one question, a very basic follow-up, and moved on. I couldn't believe that they glossed over the corruption that we've seen exposed over the last several weeks so quickly as they did last night, and that nobody else on stage even thought to call Biden out. I think, one, it's because they know that he and his family have been so deeply involved in that corruption, but more so because they know that he's no longer a factor in this race. I think they've already decided to write him off, and they're focusing their fire on Elizabeth Warren.
Well, since you mentioned that soundbite where Anderson Cooper said President Trump has falsely accused the Bidens of wrongdoing, we're going to play it. Watch this.
President Trump has falsely accused your son of doing something wrong while serving on a company board in Ukraine. I want to point out there's no evidence of wrongdoing by either one of you.
My son did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. I carried out the policy of the United States government in rooting out corruption in Ukraine. But I wanted to make a point about it. My son's statement speaks for itself. What we have to do now is focus on Donald Trump. He's going after me because he knows if I get the nomination, I will beat him like a drum.
And that's the soundbite we've heard before, Sarah.
And it's as laughable now as it was every other time that he said it. I thought it was interesting that Vice President Biden chose to say that his son's statement speaks for itself, particularly considering the fact that it contradicted his own statement. I think the reason he didn't want to talk about it, he didn't want to defend it, is because they were totally different. Whose line? Was it his son or was it the vice president? I also loved that Anderson Cooper says, while you were obviously not involved in any wrongdoing that we are aware of, they spent 2 years spending every single moment of their broadcast attacking the president for something he didn't do while claiming they had evidence. It is absolutely unbelievable, the hypocrisy that we saw on full display last night from CNN.
You know, I think you brought up a good point. I didn't think